Hi everyone, it's Lori from Lori J Journals. Back with hashtag all things altered, and this is part 4 and hopefully the final part of my all things altered of this denim journal cover. I'm trying a new camera angle here. I hope this works out. I'm happy to have some feedback. This is as I mentioned, part 4 of a series where I've been working on this denim journal cover. It's the open collab hashtag all things altered that is being organized by Arlene at Creating in the Waiting. Check out her YouTube channel and the Savage Art Facebook group. Those will both be posted in the description box below. So I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly today. I feel like this is a project that's been going on a long time. I've taken you along on my struggles. Just a quick recap. I started this last Monday as All Things Altered, a piece of denim, which you can probably tell comes from an opened up leg of a pair of blue jeans. And then I painted on the cover, played around with acrylics. I went through some struggles with the focal piece here. I had painted some hearts, didn't like them, painted over, did some hand lettering, didn't like that, painted over, and I decided I was finished with all of that. And when I went off camera, I took my alphabet stamps and some permanent archival black stamp ink, and I stamped the word create, which I feel like is a great word for this journal because I don't really know what the inside of this journal is going to look like yet. Typically when I start doing this, I know what the project is going to be. And create has really been my word this year. I'll share with you some other items that I did the same way this year. It was my word when I was encouraged by friends to choose a word this year. My word was create. So I decided I would stick with it. The other reason I love it is because I try to make a lot of my journals open to the user, like lots of blank space to create. So blank dyed pages, lined paper, so that there's enough for, I kind of call them creative journals, more so than some of my more traditional junk journals that are kind of stuffed with a lot of things. So this is a good journal to do that. All right. So there's all my crazy front loading. I did do some stitching around here. It's been a long time since I had black thread in my sewing machine, and I love the way the black looks in contrast to bright colors. So I did a little bit more splatter painting on here. I added a few more stamp embellishments and I stitched around it, and now it's ready to become a journal cover. It's not to say I won't do more to it later. I might, but I feel like it's ready enough to be constructed. So in addition to my all things altered piece of denim, I'm doing a 2-for-1. So I'm also going to use a paper bag today. So this is the second all things altered. So I'm finishing up last week's project. I'm altering a paper bag this week, 2-for-1. Okay, just so to fill you in, this is not a full-size grocery bag. It's bigger than a lunch bag or produce bag. It's kind of like a mini grocery bag. I measured it. It was about 13 inches this way, going the length, and about an 8.25 inch, which I thought was really nice for a journal size. It probably will be a little bit bigger than the pages, but that's great because A, it gives me more room to stuff bigger signatures, or I can create inside pockets on the journal and it won't make the pages stick out. You'll notice I have a couple of pieces of tape on here. This is just fabric tape, and it's not doing anything other than just mending a rip in the bag. and it didn't need to be heavily reinforced because I'm just going to sew over it with fabric anyway. I just wanted to keep my edges clean. You'll notice some dots on here. I did do some sewing on this bag and then changed my mind and pulled it all apart. So now I have it. Okay. Orientation. So some people who make journal covers out of paper bags, and I should tell you that I learned how to do this from Barbara at 49 Dragonflies quite some time ago. She does an amazing job with these. She opens this, like takes apart the adhesive here, opens up the bag completely and flattens it out. And I've made the decision not to do that for two reasons. One is I don't want to create more length on my bag because my denim is just the right length right now, and I don't want to create more length here. No reason to cut anything apart. And the other reason is I actually kind of like this folded extra piece. Gives more reinforcement. I want that to be the front of the journal. So when I do sew this on, I'm getting threads. Okay, when I do sew this on, I'm going to make sure that the front covers on that folded part because I like the extra reinforcement. Okay, you could just leave this fabric, right? If, you know, you can just make a soft fabric journal and there's nothing wrong with that. It just kind of becomes flappy. I like the added reinforcement. It's like semi-soft cover, right? So it's not stiff like a box or a book board, but it does create a little bit more structure when you're opening and closing the journal. And I've made no bones about the fact that I love that sound. I love a crispy journal, okay? So that's why I've decided to use the paper bag. And again, I'm not going to open it up. So the other thing I needed to do was decide what I was going to use for inside fabric. And I looked at quite a few pieces in my stash. I considered some Tim Holtz because who doesn't love Tim Holtz? I thought about doing another piece of denim. However, I think that would make the journal too thick to sew the signatures in when I say too thick. And just one other thing before I go about doing this that I wanted to share is typically when I make these, and I haven't decided if I'll do this today or not. I kind of want to see through the project with you. But typically I put the inside fabric on first, and then I don't do anything with the outside cover until after I've sewn in the signatures. And the reason I do that is, it's easier to sew through the thin fabric and the paper bag without sewing through the denim. And the other is if you like your signature strings to be hidden on the outside rather than exposed, then what happens is your signature strings become show on the outside of the bag, and then you cover the fabric and then you won't see them here. And that's just preference. And I've done both ways. Sometimes I have the strings exposed, other times I cover them up. So I have torn away a piece of inside fabric, and you can probably see why I chose this. It was in my stash. And look at how it has the same colors in it. And that's probably because I'm attracted to this combination of colors. I've had this fabric in my stash for a while, and you can see that I have similar paint colors. So I feel like it goes perfectly. It actually looks like an intentional choice, so I'm going to go with that. I decided again that I want this piece here, right? So I have to make sure that I sew on this side. Now I said sew. You don't have to sew this. You could certainly glue it, and there are all kinds of methods to do it. You've probably seen the glue the corners here and then fold in and glue it down, and you can definitely do that. In fact, I might do that. The reason why I don't typically sew in the first part is because if I sew this on here, I'm going to have a seam all around here. And then if I decide I want to sew this on afterwards, I'll have yet another seam. And I feel like it'll be too busy. The other option is to sew on the inside and to glue on the outside. And you can do that as well. In fact, thinking ahead, if I've attached this inside fabric, I have put signatures in, it's going to be very difficult to sew the outside cover on afterwards. Okay, so that's another advantage of sewing your whole cover together and leaving your strings exposed, is because you're able to just go around and sew the whole thing, and then you don't have to worry about trying to sew after. If you don't sew or you prefer to do glue, it's a non-issue. Okay. And the last decision before I finish this is whether I want the fabric, the inside cover fabric, to stick out along the edges. Okay. So do I want this to be shabby and to come out, or do I want it clean to the edge? And if I want it clean to the edge, then I'm going to need to sew or glue, and then it would look like this, cleaner on the edge. I've got to say, I kind of don't mind the idea of it sticking out. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute and just show you as I work through the options to see what I think. Okay, I think I like it with the fabric sticking out. However, I'm a little concerned that on this side of the denim, the size of the denim is really tight to the bag. And I'm afraid if I don't get good coverage with my inside fabric, that I won't ensure that the bag stays closed. So I think I'm going to take my edges in. So I'm going to set the cover aside for just a minute. I'm going to grab some Fabri-Tac. And we'll go ahead and do it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with light glue. And when I say light, I mean just not that much. I'm going to consider whether I want to, I still haven't decided whether I want to sew this in the end, or, sorry about that, I knocked into my camera. I haven't decided if I want to sew around the inside or the outside. I really, in a journal that has a lot of design like this, when I say a lot of design, I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a busy type fabric, right? It's not just plain. I think I might like my strings for my signatures to be covered rather than exposed. And so in thinking about that, it's going to be important to know that ahead of time so that I know I'm going to have to sew my signature in first. So as much as I wanted to have a complete project done on here for you to see, I don't have signatures created and picked out for this journal yet. So I'm not going to be able to completely finish it. But what I will do is get as far as I can, show you what it's going to look like, and then I will post the final product. And right now, I'm not being too particular because this is all the part that's not going to show. I'm really just doing this so that when I sew along the edges, I don't have to worry about holding the fabric in place. The corners are the hardest, of course, because there's This will make for really clean edges on the inside. Okay, so that's the inside of the journal. And then when it's all put together, it will look like this with the signatures sewn in here. And so what I was saying is, I think I'd rather have my signatures sewn in and covered by the denim. It's just my preference. I don't think I want the strings exposed out here. So because of that, I'm not going to attach this cover on yet. I'm going to sew in my signatures here, and then I'll sew on. But what I will do is create a stitch around the edge here. So I'll do that. And I think I'm going to go with a zigzag stitch. I don't know, I change my mind sometimes. Sometimes I like a really clean single stitch around the edge. And actually, so I have this like this, with kind of the messy double straight stitch all the way around. And maybe I want to match that. So I think I'm going to do the same thing on the inside of the journal for coordination. So bear with me for just a minute. One of these days I will work out an arrangement where you can see my sewing machine while I'm on camera. I'm sorry that that's not the case now. I've done the stitching one time around. I'm going to do it one more time. I'm really digging the way it looks. I'm almost there. One more side. Okay, how fun is this? Okay, so I've made a double, my light isn't so great here today, is it? I've made a double messy stitch all the way around, so you can see now I've got kind of the coordination of this. I've got it going on inside and outside. So at this point, as I mentioned, so this is going to be the outside cover. I've got this ready to go to sew in signatures. So at this point, I would do just that. I would create my signatures, sew them in here, and then when I'm completely finished, I'll sew the cover on. So remember I mentioned that that this is a little bit bigger here. It's okay. You know, I'll show you, I took a kind of just a regular piece of computer paper, copy paper, whatever you want to call it, just as a gauge to see what I would think. And it does look a little bit small for the journal, but I'm kind of okay with that because if I were to create 3 signatures, you know, it's going to bulk up a little and then it's going to stick out. This part will stick out, which means the signatures will stay nice and snug inside. And I might decide to trim this down a little bit, but I doubt it. I think I'll let it be extra floppy like that. And then in the end, I will probably Fabri-Tac this journal onto, the denim onto the overall journal. So again, I apologize that I'm not really completing the project on camera. I just, I'm not ready for that yet. And I don't know that you want to see yet another part of this project. So here's where I am. Hashtag all things altered. Last week's denim journal cover. This week, grocery paper bag into a journal cover. And then this will eventually be a full journal that maybe I'll do a short or something just to show you the final product when I end up with a complete journal. So again, Monday, all things altered, hashtag all things altered, an open collab, open invitation to post an altered creation coordinated by Arlene at Creating in the Waiting. Check her out on YouTube, or the Savage Junk Journal group on Facebook. Have a great Monday.